are now listening to the IELTS podcast. Learn from tutors and ex-examiners who are masters of IELTS preparation. Your host, Ben Worthington.
Sample answers for recent IELTS Speaking Part 2 cue cards, seen by our own students who then sent them in. Those students were doing the exam, obviously, and also some were collected from around the internet. Let's jump into it. Actually, first, my name's Ben Worthington. I decided to specialise in the IELTS exam because I was teaching kids in the mornings, I was teaching adults in the evenings, I had a few university students midday, and 1 or 2 IELTS students in the afternoon. And it's tiring, switching from all those different types of students. And also, I decided to focus on the IELTS students because my teaching could be measured. If I were getting students constantly band 7, I would get referrals. And with the other groups, it was difficult. Fair enough, some of the younger students had their exams, but it wasn't entirely in my control. It depended on the motivation of the students, the adult learners. I remember one student, he drove me mad. All he wanted to do was maintain, and that just didn't sit well with me. He wanted to maintain, and for months he was just at the same level, just barely maintaining what he'd attained from his visit to England 20 years ago. And it was frustrating for me because I like to get results, I like to see improvement, and I was like, okay, I got this IELTS student. I had an embarrassing class with her where we were trying to figure out task 2. It just wasn't happening. We kept going around in circles. I was like, right, the student's super motivated. There's a lot riding on this exam. It's time to get serious. So I started asking all the tutors I could find, all the professionals, ex-IELTS examiners. I recorded their interviews, launched IELTS podcast, and within a month I was like, okay, I'm only working with IELTS students now. And I just specialised. And because of that specialisation, we got the results. We were the first IELTS podcast online. We were one of the first to do video essay corrections. Everybody else just copied us once they saw how effective they were. And we were one of the first as well with the AI essay checking tool. And that's where it's all going. We're launching a speaking tool at the moment. We're not launching it, we're developing it. And yeah, that's pretty much where it's going. I'm going to AI. It's quite exciting. And this just reminds me actually of the new newsletter that we set up. It's called Pass IELTS Fast. When you subscribe to our newsletter, go to IELTSPodcast.com. You'll see a lovely pop-up there, and you can subscribe to the email list, and you'll get lots of advice on how to use tools for passing the exam fast. Because as I said before, that's where it is nowadays. Students who are failing the IELTS exam are probably still using information, are still bouncing around YouTube, are still bouncing around blogs. Whereas the successful students are using tools and just making use of technology, harnessing technology and passing faster than ever before. So go and have a look at that at IELTSPodcast.com. And while you're doing that, listen to these new sample answers, perfect answers for recent cue cards. Describe a time when you forgot or missed an appointment. You should say when it was, who you made it with, why you miss it, and how you felt about it. I'd like to tell you about a very recent appointment that I almost forgot. I pretty much did forget it because I turned up 20 minutes late. However, this happened just a few days ago. I wanted to meet with a developer. The developer is based in India, and there's a bit of a time difference. However, we were talking, and then we decided it's probably better we jump on a call. So we decided to schedule a call for in an hour's time because I still had some other tasks to do. And after that, we finished the conversation, and then I set up a reminder on my phone, and it went off, but I just ignored the reminder. It was only like a countdown timer. It wasn't a specific timer saying jump on call with developer. And I think that's probably why I missed it. The other reason why I missed it was because most appointments I put in my Google Calendar, and I review them at the beginning of the day, and then when I'm making my plan for the day or for the next day, I'll usually put it in my schedule. And because this was almost spontaneous, this meeting, I think that's why it slipped from memory. Now, I remember I was looking at my computer and I saw the time, and I was like, oh, sugar, I'm supposed to be in a meeting 20 minutes ago. So I jumped straight on to the platform where we were talking previously, and I said, I am so sorry. And I wrote it in capitals to convey sincerity, because not to convey shouting. I did it to convey sincerity, because normally I never miss appointments, and I look down on the people who flake regarding appointments and who cancel or who forget or who just ghost. I really take a dim view of people about that. However, here I was, and I was actually 20 minutes late to an appointment, and to add insult to injury, it was me who proposed this meeting. So it made me feel even worse than if they had proposed and I had agreed. It was me who initiated it and then almost completely forgot about this appointment. And that's my talk about a time when I almost missed an appointment. There we go. So lots of specific vocabulary, even a phrase in there to add insult to injury. Normally with my sample answers, I don't use that many idiomatic expressions because it's difficult to find the one that fits appropriately. But here it was a perfect fit. To add insult to injury means like I'd already done something bad and then it just got worse, you know. It was me who proposed it and then I forgot, or reverse it. I forgot about it, and then to make matters worse, it was me who had actually proposed it. And also I gave my opinion there. It's because it says, how do you feel about it? Well, I felt terrible. Why? Why did I feel terrible? Develop the answer. I felt terrible about it because I'm quite strict with my time and I don't appreciate it being wasted. And one way of it being wasted is when people don't show up, flake, ghost, rearrange, whatever. So I just emphasized that a little bit. Now, the smart ones amongst you may have realized that it asked me for a time I forgot or missed an appointment. And I was talking about one that I almost forgot or missed. But I think that would be perfectly acceptable because I did miss the original time. It was supposed to be 12:30. I ended up getting on the call at 12:50. I did miss the initial time, but I made that clear, you know, and I addressed all the other points in there, and it wasn't as if I was talking about an appointment I made at the hairdresser, which is still talking about an appointment but completely different. I still missed this appointment, but thankfully the person was patient and stuck around and waited for me. Describe a very intelligent person you know. You should say who this person is, when and where you first met them, what this person does in life, and explain why you think this person is intelligent. I'd love to tell you about a friend I have here in the city where I live at the moment. He's French, and I honestly think he's probably one of the smartest people I know. He's roughly my age, and he's also married recently, and he's also had a kid recently as well. So it's kind of like our life track is running in parallel, although obviously we didn't intend that to happen. So I first met them at a meetup about languages, and I honestly thought this person was perhaps a little bit rude or a little bit direct, probably because in England we have the tendency to sugarcoat and to sugarcoat our comments and to be less direct and probably a little bit more reserved. Anyway, this person is a developer, and he's been working on his project, his own company, now for about 4 or 5 years. And this person is incredibly smart because he learned this project or this company he got from following a course in Coursera. He took the course, and then one of the example projects they gave him was, I think it's to recognize car license plates. And then my friend just carried on. He took that example, took that sample project, and he just carried on with it and developed it into a full company. And now it's making a very good living for himself, and he does all the development work, and his partner in the US does all the marketing work. Now, I think this person is incredibly intelligent, not only for taking the sample project from an online course and running with it, but he also has very unique perspectives and no nonsense thinking when he gives advice, which being English, as I said, is quite refreshing for me, because I think in the Anglo-Saxon world we do not talk direct enough. We are a little bit round the houses, so to speak. So I think this person's incredibly intelligent because he's got his own company, he developed it, he's stuck with it, he always gives me smart advice, especially when it's related to technology, and even in other subjects he usually manages to get to the core of the problem and eliminate all the distractions which might be clouding my thinking. So that's my friend. He's from France, and he's incredibly intelligent. There we go. So coincidentally, I got another phrase in there, sugarcoat something, which you probably know what it means by now, but it just means to be less direct and not to explain the full facts or the gravity of the situation, just to make it seem nicer than it actually is. For example, somebody might go into work with a horrible, disgusting coat, and in the UK his co-workers might just say, "That's an interesting coat," when really they're thinking that is horrible. Anyway, so that was the talk about an intelligent person. I gave examples, I gave details, I just added a little bit of information which might not have been so relevant about, similar stages in life to me, but also, I think what really helps in these situations is always just to explain why, just develop it a little bit further. Second thing that helps is to work through the bullet points methodically. Just go through each one, and if you find that you are progressing fast, then slow down and develop that point and add an anecdote and add a detail. And then finally, you can always indicate to the examiner that you are finishing or have finished when you say, "And that's my presentation, that's my talk about somebody very intelligent." Now, when you are working through these points, just remember to go through each one and to read it, and don't just skim it and assume. You've got to read it a few times and just get it crystal clear, then develop it, why, give an example, and then move on. Final one. Describe a time when you taught a friend or relative something. You should say who you taught, what you taught, how the result was, and explain how you felt about the experience. I'd love to tell you about the time I taught my younger cousin Spanish. She had relative knowledge in Spanish. She'd done a few courses, but she was struggling. I think she's probably about 20 years younger than me. So at the time, she was probably around 15 and I was 25. As I said, I taught her Spanish. And I wanted to teach her because I had a feeling the way she was being taught back in England wasn't very effective. And language tuition is my profession. Exam preparation is like a specific division of that. But I taught them Spanish, and I mainly taught them vocabulary. I taught her a little bit of grammar. I tried to stay away from pronunciation because with it not being my native language, I didn't feel that comfortable. The result was that she was learning. It was enjoyable. I realized that I don't think I'm the right person. Despite my knowledge of teaching languages, I realized I shouldn't really be teaching Spanish. I should leave it to a Spaniard. Mainly because I didn't feel comfortable. My Spanish wasn't good enough. And sometimes I couldn't really get the results I wanted to get for my cousin. Now, the experience was quite new for me. As I said, I learned that I should probably just stick to teaching English. I also learned that, I got a bit closer with my cousin and just found out a little bit more about her life. And I also, but when she cancelled, she was only 15, so she didn't have complete control of her schedule. But when she cancelled, it infuriated me because I'd scheduled time out of my own calendar and I wasn't getting paid for it. And I found myself at a loose end when she did cancel. So overall, it was a mixed experience. It was enjoyable. I learnt a lot. However, I don't think that I would do it again, in all honesty. So that's a time when I taught my cousin Spanish, and I hope you enjoyed my talk. There we go. So again, it's quite detailed, quite opinionated near the end, and I felt myself going off topic a little bit when I started talking about languages and grammar and stuff, and I was like, actually, this has nothing to do with the talk. Get back on or move on to the next bullet point and develop that one a little bit further. Now, I found that maybe one or two of those bullet points probably went a little bit quick, but the important thing is that I didn't skip any of those points. I had them in front of me all the time, and if I did go quickly over one of them, I made a mental note to really fully develop the next one with more details, more examples, and more extensive explanations, so as to reach the 2 minute time, to reach the 2 minute time frame. So there we go. In our Speaking Confidence course, which you can get for free at the moment, I'll tell you more about that in a second, but in the Speaking Confidence course, we give you frameworks to use to develop your answer, to help you expand your answer and enrich your answer. We also give you frameworks that include structures that actually force you to make comparisons, that force you to, compare and contrast, and all these higher level functions that you need to do to score a band 7, 8 or 9. And at the moment, you're going to get that course for free when you subscribe to the AI Essay Checker and then upgrade to the online courses. So here's what happens. You go to IELTSPodcast.com, you join our newsletter, you get that guide about passing the IELTS exam quickly, and you might as well upgrade to the AI Essay Checker, because when you do, you get a ridiculously generous and a ridiculously special offer to get all our courses and save over $300-400 US. So have a look at that at IELTSPodcast.com. I wish you a beautiful day. I wish you effective studying. And also, that reminds me actually, now if you go to, when you join our newsletter as well, you'll get information about these new study sessions that we have recently launched. These are not teaching sessions, it's study sessions, and we meet online for about 2 hours. That's my little boy, if you heard that. He's woken up. Anyway, he's not going to be on the calls, so don't worry. But we study for like 2 hours. Monday, Tuesday and Thursdays for 2 hours. Those days I'm streaming myself study. These are not teaching sessions, but all we do is we meet online and we say we're going to study for 2 hours. We state our goals in the chat, and then we just work on those for the next 2 hours straight. And it's focused, powerful, and it's motivating as well. It's focused, powerful study sessions, and it just makes you a little bit more accountable, and it makes it just more effective, your study time. You're not going to get up and wander to the fridge, you're not going to check your phone. It just makes it a little bit more accountable and more effective. So have a look at those. Keep an eye out for those. They're on the newsletter now. At the end of the newsletter, you can see the link, you can see the schedule, and you can see how to subscribe to get notifications about those calls. So about those study sessions, it's not an IELTS class, but a lot of students in between the study sessions, when we have a 10-minute break, we do talk about IELTS, so you can get some guidance there as well. That's it from me today. Have a wonderful day, and I wish you all the best with your IELTS exam.
Thanks for listening to IELTSPodcast.com.